Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Read the Right Thing. My name is Eric, and today we're going to be talking about a book called The Last Pirate of New York, and it's by Rich Coen. A ghost ship, a killer, and the birth of a gangster nation. And as always, this channel is called Read the Right Thing because I think it sounds cool, and anything you find that interests you is the right thing. The Last Pirate of New York is a book for people who like three things: New York City, gangsters, and violence. Okay, maybe four things. An edge of your seat, captivating story. Now, it's a book that is easy to read, but not for the queasy or faint of heart. Alright, it's such a cool story that it's hard to imagine that it actually happened. Coen takes a true story and tells it in narrative form, turning his hard-earned research into a story that flows like the best of novels. He impeccably blends scholarly research with crafty writing to form an entertaining story. Now, I'm a sucker for port cities. All right, port cities like Hoboken, New Jersey, New York City, Hamburg, Germany, and even Savannah, Georgia. The waterfront and its gritty shoremen pass now blend with the new age hipster style, creating vibrant towns full of great food, great architecture, and a soul. I'm drawn to port cities almost as much as beach towns. The water and the industrious buildings butt up right against each other, and the ocean almost threatens to drown the entire town. This book, The Last Pirate of New York, it opens up with the author writing personally about how much he loves gangster stories. On page 1, this is how it opens. I grew up on gangster stories. While other kids were hearing about the Three Little Pigs and the old woman who lived in a shoe, my father was telling me about the legends of his New York childhood. Pittsburgh Phil Strauss and Louis Lepke Buchalter, Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky, the visionary who put craps up on a table. The lesson here, my father said softly as I lay in bed, is that it was the same game, just played on a different level. For a kid in the suburbs, these stories were more than stories. They were red brick stoops, air shafts crossed by clotheslines, alleys, candy stores, and subterranean club rooms, apartment houses that, compared to my atomized world of detached, single-family living, seemed like paradise. Coastal Brooklyn, where the fog bathes everything in a ghostly light and the Verrazano Narrows Bridge vanishes halfway across like a ladder with its top in the clouds. As soon as I was old enough, I moved to New York. I said I was looking for a job, but I'd really come in search of the truth behind my father's stories. This became my career. Parents, be careful what you tell your children at night. I explored the parts of the city where I knew the old-time gangsters had operated. Little Italy and the Lower East Side, East New York and Brownsville, Brooklyn, the piers that had been the heart of the old Fourth Ward. I was consumed by New York history. Not the story of marble buildings and glad-handing mayors, but the alternate story that ran parallel and beneath. The story of the underworld, its heroes and stool pigeons, founders and visionaries. As my father said, the same game, just played on a different level. So I love how he tells us a little bit about his own life and why he wrote this book, why he loves gangster stories. I love how he compares gangsters as the same game, just on a different level. All right, it's the lower level, the underground, versus politicians, everything above that's shiny and nice and deemed okay to do. That's the same game, it's just on a different level. The writer of another #1 New York Times bestseller, The Lost City of the Monkey God, Douglas Preston, said this about the book: history at its best. I highly recommend this remarkable book. And Ian Fraser, author of Travels in Siberia, said it's a remarkable work of scholarship about old New York, combined with a skillfully told, edge-of-your-seat adventure story. I could not put it down. So it is scholarship, but this book reads more like popular fiction. If you love stories of gritty, tough people living in port towns, grab this book. So if you like Goodfellas or Boardwalk Empire, you'll like this for its edge-of-your-seat storytelling. So this book, it's about an event that occurred pre-Civil War, about a guy named Albert Hicks. And in the cover, it says, "The story of Albert Hicks, the most notorious criminal on the New York waterfront, unfolded in the course of 3 bloody months in the summer before the Civil War. There was a massacre, a flight, a manhunt, and a trial, all of which kept the nation riveted and remade Hicks, the last pirate of New York, into a celebrated antihero. So the story starts out when a mysterious ship is found in the middle of the ocean. And this is the first chapter that really catapults you into the story. Chapter 2, The Ghost Ship. The ship was spotted March 21st, 1860, Wednesday, 4 hours before dawn, by the crew of J.R. Mather, a schooner hauling molasses to Philadelphia. The captain of the Mather, Ben Nickerson, discovered the ship by running into it. Bang! The crew was sent reeling. Nickerson rushed to the bridge. That's when he saw the strange sloop, a dark shape on dark water, listing as if wounded. The bowsprit, the spar that extends from the prow over the sea, had snapped off. The fore topmast, staysail, inner jib, outer jib, and flying jib had come down in a heap. Wood and rigging landed on the deck of the Mather, where Nickerson stood over it, muttering. He went to work untangling the mess. His first reaction was anger. Why had this ghost been drifting without lights in the center of Lower Bay? But when he turned his attention to the sloop, anger gave way to dread. There was something unreal about this ship. No sound came from it. No sign of life. No glow came from the pilot house. No sailor stood at the rail. The decks were deserted. Nickerson called out, shouted, helloed, but nothing came back. Speaking to police a few days later, he recalled the unsettling silence. He would have investigated further had his own boat not been badly damaged. He returned for repairs to the South Street docks on the East River in Lower Manhattan, instead bringing with him the first news of the mysterious ship. That report, as well as the rigging Nickerson had carried away from the collision, fired up the rumor mill. Within hours, the story was being told in every harborside tavern. New York City was a maritime city. It was all about the waterfront, oyster sloops, and ferries, steamships, and cutters, channels, tidal washes, and bays. Nearly everyone below Houston Street was connected to the ocean. Terms like bowsprit did not have to be defined, nor did forecastle, rigging, or captain's daughter. Everyone knew the bowsprit was the spar that extended over the sea, that the forecastle was the ship's upper deck before the mast, that the rigging was the system of ropes that controlled the sails, that a captain's daughter was the whip that officers used to discipline unruly sailors, as in, all right, boys, give him the captain's daughter. In that New York, an abandoned sloop without crew or direction, a phantom nearly within sight of the downtown docks, yet lost in a watery delirium, stood for breakdown and chaos. Honestly, in my opinion, this is one of, the perfect books. You know what you're getting. The story flows. It's entertaining. It's edge of your seat. You learn a lot about old New York City pre-Civil War. You learn about how they operated back then, how the cops operated, how the gangsters operated, and how the people felt.